Before we begin, ask yourself this. What if the thing you've been waiting on, the bell that never rings, is actually setting you up for the loudest miracle of your life? In a quiet rural town nestled between rolling hills and farmlands lived a humble church caretaker named Elias. He had served the old stone chapel for over 30 years, sweeping its ancient pews, oiling the creaking doors, and tending the flower garden that bordered the tiny graveyard behind it. The most important part of Elias's daily duty was the church bell, a grand bronze bell that hung from the tower like a sleeping giant. But there was one problem. The bell hadn't rung in over a decade. It broke during a thunderstorm years ago, and the church had never raised enough funds to repair the old mechanism. Still, Elias climbed the narrow stairs every morning and evening, laid a gentle hand on the silent bell, and whispered, "Maybe today." Villagers often mocked his strange ritual. "You still go up there? It doesn't even work. That bell's been dead for years, old man." But Elias would simply smile and say, "Just because it's silent doesn't mean it's useless. God uses silence too." Elias had a daughter, Naomi, once a sweet, bright-eyed girl who loved painting sunflowers behind the chapel. But when her mother died from illness, Naomi was just 17, angry, lost, and questioning everything about faith in God. One night, without warning, she ran away. Elias searched for years. He wrote letters, asked friends, and prayed constantly. Every evening, as he laid his hand on the silent bell, he whispered the same words, "God, bring her home. Ring this bell if you hear me." But the bell never rang. 10 years passed. One stormy evening, a car skidded off the country road and crashed near the chapel. Elias, now older, heard the commotion and rushed out with his lantern. Inside the car was a young woman, bruised and unconscious. He called for help, and the villagers brought her inside the church. The doctor said she had no ID, just a broken necklace with a tiny sunflower charm. Elias froze. It was the exact charm he gave Naomi when she was 10. The young woman was his daughter. Naomi survived the crash, but she couldn't speak for weeks, emotionally and mentally shut down. She sat in the back pew, staring at the stained glass windows, never saying a word. Until one Sunday morning, as sunlight broke through the sky and poured onto the altar, something unexpected happened. The bell rang. Loud, strong, clear. A sound the whole village hadn't heard in over a decade. People rushed outside, pointing to the bell tower in shock. Elias stood frozen. He hadn't touched the rope. No one had. Naomi, from the back pew, slowly stood up, tears in her eyes. For the first time in years, she spoke. "I heard it. Before it rang. In my spirit." "What did you hear?" Elias whispered. "You praying. I remembered you praying." Later, engineers were called. No one could explain how the bell rang. The mechanism was still broken. The gears, rusted. But people didn't care. They believed it was a miracle. They believed God rang it. And maybe he did. Because from that day, Naomi began healing. She began speaking. She painted again. She laughed. She returned to faith. She returned home. One evening, Naomi sat with Elias under the large oak near the chapel. "Papa," she said, "all those years I ran. I kept dreaming of the bell. Even when I lived in the city, I'd hear it in my sleep. It never made sense." Elias looked at her and said gently, "Maybe the bell wasn't broken. Maybe it was just waiting for the right moment." Naomi nodded slowly. A silent bell, but a loud miracle. We often measure God's activity by what we see and hear, by the noise, the thunder, and the grand displays. But some of the loudest miracles happen in silence. Just because the bell hasn't rung in your life doesn't mean God isn't working. Don't give up on the bell. When God is ready, the silence will break. If this story resonated with you, share it with your friends. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to join our amazing community. Thanks for tuning in. Your support means the world. God bless you all.